I should think so too. Oh, oh, hey there. We're live again today. Thought we'd go back to the old way of doing things. Prince Caspian, part 9. Out of, who knows? Who knows? It depends how long today goes on for. There are 3 more chapters of this story. Let's see how it goes. So, this is what we're doing. C.S. Lewis's Prince Caspian. And we got to chapter 13. There's going to be some more action today, hopefully. But as I say, let's see what happens, shall we? Right. Got some new characters today, so we'll see how the voices go. Marvellous, let's dive straight in then. Chapter 13, The High King in Command. And as you know from the last one, there were 2 nasty creatures, and Edmund and Peter went and joined Caspian and all the other characters, and defeated the 2 creatures, and now they're on the warpath. So, the High King in Command. Now, said Peter, as they finished their meal, Aslan and the girls, that's Queen Susan and Queen Lucy, Caspian, are somewhere close. We don't know when he will act. In his time, no doubt, not ours. In the meantime, we would like us to do what we can on our own. He would, rather. You say, Caspian, we are not strong enough to meet Miraz in pitched battle? I'm afraid not, High King, said Caspian. He was liking Peter very much, but was rather tongue-tied. It was much stranger for him to meet the great kings out of the old stories than it was for them to meet him. Very well, then, said Peter. I'll send him a challenge to a single combat. No one had thought of this before. Maha. Please, said Caspian, could it not be me? I want to avenge my father. You're wounded, said Peter. And anyway, wouldn't he just laugh at a challenge from you? I mean, we have seen that you are a king and a warrior, but he thinks of you as a kid. But sire, said the badger, who sat very close to Peter and never took his eyes off him. Will he accept a challenge even from you? He knows he has the stronger army. Very likely he won't, said Peter. But there's always the chance. And even if he doesn't, we shall spend the best part of the day sending heralds to and fro and all that. By then, Aslan may have done something. And at least I can expect the army and strengthen the position. I will send the challenge. In fact, I will write it at once. Have you pen and ink, Master Doctor? Marriage! No. A scholar is never without them, Your Majesty, answered Dr. Cornelius. Very well, I will dictate, said Peter. And while the doctor spread out the parchment and opened his inkhorn and sharpened his pen, Peter leant back with half-closed eyes and recalled to his mind the language in which he had written such things long ago in Narnia's golden age. Right, he said at last. And now, if you are ready, Doctor. Dr. Cornelius dipped his pen and waited. Peter dictated as follows. Peter, by the gift of Aslan, by election, by prescription, and by conquest, High King over all kings in Narnia, Emperor of the Lone Islands and Lord of Cair Paravel, Knight of the most noble order of the Lion, to Miraz, son of Caspian the Eighth, sometime Lord Protector of Narnia, and now styling himself King of Narnia. Greeting. Have you got that? Narnia, greeting, muttered the doctor. Yes, sire. Then begin a new paragraph, said Peter. For to prevent the effusion of blood, and for the avoiding of all other inconveniences likely to grow from the wars now levied in our realm of Narnia, it is our pleasure to adventure our royal person on behalf of our trusty and well-beloved Caspian in clean wager of battle, to prove upon your lordship's body that the said Caspian is lawful king under us in Narnia, both by our gift and by the laws of the Telmarines, and your lordship twice guilty of treachery, both in withholding the dominion of Narnia from the said Caspian, and in the most abominable, that's a new word. Don't forget to spell it with an H, Doctor. Abominable, bloody, and unnatural murder of your kindly lord and brother King Caspian, ninth of that name. Wherefore we most heartily provoke, challenge, and defy your lordship to the said combat, and monomachmy. We have sent these letters by the hand of our well-beloved and royal brother Edmund, sometime king under us in Narnia, Duke of Lantern Waste, and Count of the Western March, Knight of the Noble Order of the Table, to whom we have given full power of determining with your lordship all the conditions of the said battle. Given at our lodging in Aslan's Howe, this XII, 12th day of the month, Green roof in the first year of Caspian 10th of Narnia. Oh, that ought to do, said Peter, drawing a deep breath. And now we must send 2 others with the King Edmund. I think the giant ought to be one. He's not very clever, you know, said Caspian. Of course not, said Peter. But any giant looks impressive, if only he will keep quiet. And it will cheer him up. But who for the other? Upon my word, said Trumpkin, if you want someone who can kill with looks, Reapercheap would be the best. He would indeed, from all I hear, said Peter with a laugh. If only he wasn't so small, they wouldn't even see him till he was close. Send Glenstorm, sire, said Trufflehunter. No one ever laughed at a centaur. Paragraph break. Lovely. Got 2 new characters now. What do they mean? Okay. An hour later, 2 great lords in the army of Maraz, the Lord Glozelle and the Lord Soapspian, strolling along their lines and picking their teeth after breakfast, looked up and saw coming down to them from the wood the centaur and giant Wimblewither, whom they'd seen before in battle, and between them a figure they couldn't recognise. Nor indeed would the other boys at Edmund's school have recognised him if they could have seen him at this moment. For Aslan had breathed on him at their meeting, and a kind of greatness hung about him. What's to do? Said the Lord Glozelle. An attack?
A parley, rather,
said Soapspian.
See, they carry green branches. They're coming to surrender, most likely.
He that is walking between the centaur and the giant has no look of surrender in his face, said Lord Glozelle. Who can he be? It is not the boy Caspian.
No, indeed,
said Soapspian.
This is a fell warrior, I warrant you. Wherever the rebels have got him from, he is, in your lordship's private ear, a kinglier man than ever Maraz was. And what mail he wears, none of us smiths can make the like.
I'll wager my double pommely he brings a challenge, not a surrender, said Glozelle. And look at their cute little capes.
Ha ha! How then, said Soapspian, we hold the enemy in our fist here. Maraz would never be so harebrained as to throw away his advantage on a combat.
He might be brought to it, said Glozelle in a much loftier voice.
Softly,
said Soapspian.
Step a little aside here, out of earshot of those sentries. Now, have I taken your lordship's meaning all right?
If the king undertook wager of battle, whispered Glozelle, why, either he would kill or be killed.
So,
said Soapspian, nodding his head.
And if he killed, we should have won this war.
Certainly, and if not? Who's talking now? Hang on, it doesn't say. Why, if not, we should be able to win it without the king's grace, as with him. For I need not tell your lordship that Maraz is no very great captain, and after that we should be both victorious and kingless.
And is it your meaning, my lord, that you and I could hold this land quite as conveniently without the king as with one?
Glozelle's face grew ugly. Not forgetting, said he, that it was we who first put him on the throne. And in all the years that he has enjoyed it, what fruits have come our way? What gratitude has he shown us?
Say no more,
answered Soapspian.
But look, here comes one to fetch us to the king's tent.
When they reached Maraz's tent, they saw Edmund and his 2 companions seated outside it, and being entertained with cakes and wine, having already delivered the challenge, and withdrawn while the king was considering it. When they saw them thus at close quarters, the 2 Telmarine lords thought all 3 of them very alarming. Indeed, they found Maraz unarmed and finishing his breakfast. His face was flushed, and there was a scowl on his brow. There, he growled, flinging the parchment across the table to them. See what a pack of nursery tales our jackanapes of a nephew has sent us. I'm spitting all over the place. By your leave, sire, said Glozelle, if the young warrior whom we've just seen outside is our King Edmund mentioned in the writing, that I would not call him a nursery tale, but a very dangerous knight. King Edmund? Pah! Said Maraz. Does your lordship believe all those old wives' fables about Peter and Edmund and the rest? I believe my eyes, your majesty, said Glozelle. Well, this is to no purpose, said Maraz. But as touching the challenge, I suppose there's only one opinion between us. I suppose so indeed, sire, said Glozelle. And what is that? asked the king. Most infallibly to refuse it, said Glozelle. For though I have not been called a coward, I must plainly say that to meet the young man in battle is more than my heart would serve me. And if, as is likely, his brother the High King is more dangerous than he, why, on your life, my Lord King, have nothing to do with him."
"Plague on you!"
cried Miraz.
"It was not that sort of counsel I wanted. Do you think I'm asking you if I should be afraid to meet this Peter, if there is such a man? Do you think I fear him? I wanted your counsel of the policy of the matter, whether we, having the advantage, should hazard it on a wager of battle."
"To which I can only answer, your Majesty," said Glozelle, "that for all reasons the challenge should be refused. There is death in the strange knight's face."
"There you are again," said Miraz, now thoroughly angry. "Are you trying to make it appear that I am as great a coward as your lordship?"
"Your Majesty may say your pleasure," said Glozelle sulkily.
"You talk like an old woman, Glozelle," said the king. What say you, my lord Caspian?" Do not touch it, sire," was the reply. "And what your majesty says of the policy of the thing comes in very happily. It gives your majesty excellent grounds for a refusal, without any cause for questioning your majesty's honor or courage." "Great heaven!" exclaimed Miraz, jumping to his feet. "Are you also bewitched today? Do you think I'm looking for grounds to refuse it? You might as well call me a coward to my face, man."
The conversation was going exactly as the two lords wished, so they said nothing.
"Miraz!"
"I see what it is," said Miraz, after staring at them as if his eye would start out of his head. "You are as lily-livered as hares yourselves, and have the effrontery to imagine my heart out of the likeness of yours. Grounds for refusal indeed. Excuses for not fighting. Are you soldiers? Are you Telmarines? Are you men? And if I do refuse it, as all good reasons of captaincy and martial policy urge me to do, you will think, and teach others to think, I was afraid. Is it not so?" "No man of your majesty's age," said Glozelle, "will be called coward by any wise soldier for refusing the combat with a great warrior in the flower of his youth."
"So, I'm to be a dotard with one foot in the grave, as well as a dastard," roared Miss Miraz. "I'll tell you what it is, my lords. With your womanish counsels, ever shying from the true point, which is one of policy, you have done the very opposite of your intent. I had meant to refuse it, but I'll accept it. Do you hear? Accept it. Ho ho! I'll not be shamed because some witchcraft or treason has frozen both of your bloods."
"We beseech you, Majesty," said Glozelle. But Miraz had flung out of the tent, and they could hear his bawling out his acceptance to Edmund.
Woo!
The two lords looked at one another, and they chuckled quietly. "I knew he'd do it if we were properly chafed. If he were," said Glozelle. "But I'll not forget he called me a coward. It shall be paid for." There was a great stirring at Aslan's howl when the news came back and was communicated to the various creatures. Edmund, with one of Miraz's captains, had already marked out the place for the combat, and ropes and stakes had been put round it. 2 Telmarines were to stand at 2 of the corners, and 1 in the middle of one side, as marshals of the lists. 3 marshals for the other 2 corners, and the other side would be furnished by the High King. Peter was just explaining to the Caspian that he should not be one, because his right to the throne was why they were fighting about it, when suddenly a thick, sleepy voice said, "Who's speaking? Oh, your Majesty, please." Peter turned round, and there stood the eldest of the Bulgy Bears. If you please, your Majesty," he said. I'm a bear, I am." "To be sure, so you are, and a good bear too, I don't doubt," said Peter.
"Yes,"
said the bear. "But it was always a right of the bears to supply one marshal of the list."
Bristolian. Don't let him. So many accents, I've got to go over him here. Don't let him, will you?"
whispered Trumpkin to Peter.
"He's a good creature, but he'll shame us all. He will. He's got to sleep, and he'll go to sleep, and he will suck his paws in front of the enemy too."
"I can't help that," said Peter, "because he's quite right. The bears had that privilege. I can't imagine how it has been remembered all these years when so many other things have been forgotten." "Please, your Majesty," said the bear. "It is your right," said Peter, "and you shall be one of the marshals. But you must remember not to suck your paws." "Oh, of course not," said the bear in a very shocked voice.
"Why, you're doing it this minute,"
bellowed Trumpkin. The bear whipped his paw out of his mouth, pretended he hadn't heard. Whoa! That's funny. Well, if you don't learn anything else from this book, don't suck your paws. Oh, hang on. Who's this? Right.
Sire!
Came a shrill voice from near the ground. Ah, Rippercheap, said Peter, after looking up and down and round as people usually did when addressed by the mouse.
Sire,
said Rippercheap.
My life is ever at your command, but my honour is my own. Sire, I have among my people the only trumpeter in your majesty's army. I had thought perhaps we might have been sent with a challenge. Sire, my people are grieved. Perhaps it were your pleasure that I should be a marshal of the lists. It would content them. Content them, rather. Content. Get me words right.
A noise not unlike thunder broke out from somewhere overhead at this point, as giant Wimbleweather burst into one of those not very intelligent laughs, to which the nicer sort of giants are so liable. He checked himself at once, and looked as grave as a turnip by the time Rippercheap discovered where the noise came from. I am afraid it would not do, said Peter very gravely. Some humans are afraid of mice.
I have observed it, sire, said Rippercheap, and it would not be quite...
Sorry, this is me speaking. It would not be quite fair to Miraz, Peter continued, to have in sight anything that might abate the edge of his courage.
Your Majesty is the mirror of honour, said the mouse with one of his admirable bows, and on this matter we have but a single mind. I thought I heard someone laughing just now. If anyone present wishes to make me the subject of his wit, I am very much at his service. With my sword! Whether he has my leisure, the leisure.
An awful silence followed this remark, which was broken by Peter, saying, Giant Wimbleweather and the bear and the centaur Glenstorm shall be our marshals. The company will be at 2 hours after noon. Dinner at noon precisely. I say, said Edmund as they walked away, I suppose it is all right. I suppose you can beat him. That's what I'm fighting him to find out, said Peter. Oh! Hardcore. Oh, go on then. I'm going to start the next chapter. Everyone wants to know how the battle goes, don't they? Yes. I certainly do. Right, here we go. Chapter 14. How all were very busy. A little before 2 o'clock, Trumpkin and the Badger sat with the rest of the creatures at the wood's edge, looking across at the gleaming line of Miraz's army, which was about 2 arrow shots away. In between, a square space of level grass had been staked for the combat. At the 2 far corners stood Glazelle and Caspian with drawn swords. At the near corners were giant Wimbleweather and the bulgy bear, who, in spite of all their warnings, was sucking his paws and looking, to tell the truth, uncommonly silly. To make up for this, Glenstorm on the right of the lists, stock still, except when he stamped a hind hoof occasionally on the turf. He looked much more imposing than the Telmarine Baron who faced him on the left. Peter had just shaken hands with Edmund and the doctor, and was now walking down to the combat. It was like the moment before the pistol goes at an important race, but very much worse. Oh, I wish Aslan had turned up before it came to this, said Trumpkin. So do I, said Trufflehunter. But look behind you.
Crows and crockery,
muttered the dwarf, as soon as he'd done so.
What are they? Huge people, beautiful people,
like gods and goddesses, and giants.
Hundreds and thousands of them closing in behind us. What are they?
It's the Dryads, and Hamadryads and Sylvans, said Trufflehunter. Aslan has wakened them. Said the dwarf. That'll be very useful if the enemy try any treachery, but it won't help the High King very much if Miraz proves handier with a sword. The Badger said nothing, for now Peter and Miraz were entering the lists from opposite ends, both on foot, both in chain shirts, with helmets and shields. They advanced till they were close together. Both bowed and seemed to speak, but it was impossible to hear what they said. Next moment, the 2 swords flashed in the sunlight. What do you think they said? I'm going to guess. I am King Peter, prepare to battle me, punk. And Miraz said, You're going down, son of Jill. Something like that. For a second the clash could be heard, but it was immediately drowned because both armies began shouting like crowds at a football match. Way-o! Well done, Peter! Oh, well done! Shouted Edmund as he saw Miraz reel back a whole pace and a half. Follow it up quick! And Peter did, and for a few seconds it looked as if the fight match The fight might be won. But then Miraz pulled himself together, began to make real use of his height and weight. Miraz! Miraz! The king! The king! Came the roar of the Telmarines. Caspian and Edmund grew white with sickening anxiety. Oh! Here's a picture of the battle. I hope you can see that all right. Yeah. Whew. Oh, Peter is taking some dreadful knocks, said Edmund. Hello, said Caspian. What's happening now? Both falling apart, said Edmund. A bit blown, I expect. Watch. Ah, now they're beginning again. More scientifically this time. Circling round and round, feeling each other's defence. I am afraid that Miraz knows his work, muttered the doctor. But hardly had he said this when there was such a clapping and baying and throwing up of hoods among the old Narnians that it was nearly deafening. What was it? What was it? Asked the doctor. My old eyes missed it. The High King has pricked him in the armpit, said Caspian, still clapping. Just where the armhole of the hauberk lets the point through. First blood. Oh, it looks ugly again now, though, said Edmund. Peter's not using his shield properly. He must be hurt in the left arm. It was only too true. Everyone could see that Peter's shield hung limp. The shouting of the Telmarines redoubled. You've seen more battles than I, said Caspian. Is there any chance now? Precious little, said Edmund. I suppose he might just do it, with luck. Oh, why did we let it happen at all? Said Caspian. Suddenly all the shouting on both sides died down. Edmund was puzzled for a moment. Then he said, Oh, I see that they've both agreed to a rest. Oh, come on, Doctor. You and I may be able to do something for the High King. They ran down to the lists, and Peter came across the ropes to meet them, his face red and sweaty, his chest heaving. Is your left arm wounded? Asked Peter. It's not exactly a wound, Peter said. I got the full weight of his shoulder on my shield, like a load of bricks, and the rim of the shield drove into my wrist. I don't think it's broken, but it might be a sprain. If you could tie it up very tight, I think I could manage. Oh, I'm spilling water all over the place. While they were doing this, Edmund asked anxiously, What do you think of him, Peter? Tough, said Peter. Very tough. I have a chance if I can keep him on the hilltop. Sorry, keep him on the hop till his weight and short wind come against him. In this hot sun too. To tell the truth, I haven't much chance else. Give my love to everyone at home, Ed, if he gets me. Here, he comes into the list again. So long, old chap. Goodbye, Doctor. And I say, Ed, say something especially nice to Trumpkin. He's been a brick. A brick. I like calling people bricks. You can build houses with them. Edmund couldn't speak. He walked back to the doctor with his own line. With the doctor to his own lines, with a sick feeling in his stomach. But the new bout went well. Peter now seemed to be able to make some use of his shield, and he certainly made good use of it. And he made good use of his feet. He was almost playing Tig with Miraz now, keeping out of range, shifting his grounds, making the enemy work. Coward! Booed the Telmarines. Why didn't you stand up to him? Don't you like it, eh? Thought you'd come to fight, not dance, huh? Oh, I do wish he won't listen to them, said Caspian. Not he, said Edmund. You don't know him. Oh! For Miraz had got in a blow at last on Peter's helmet. Peter staggered, slipped sideways and fell on one knee. The roar of the Telmarines rose like the noise of the sea. Now, Miraz! They yelled. Now, quick! Kill him! But indeed, there was no need to egg the usurper on. He was on top of Peter already. Edmund bit his lips till the blood came, as the sword flashed down on Peter. It looked as if it would slash off his head. Thank heavens! It had glanced down his right shoulder. The dwarf-wrought mail was sound and didn't break. Great Scott! Cried Edmund. He's up again! Peter, go it! Peter! I couldn't see what happened, said the doctor. How did he do it? Grabbed Miraz's arm as it came down, said Trumpkin, dancing with delight. There's a man for you. Uses his enemy's arm as a ladder. The High King! Up, old Narnia! Look, said Trufflehunter. Miraz is angry. It is good. They were certainly at it. Hammer and tongs now. Such a flurry of blows that it seemed impossible for either not to be killed. As the excitement grew, the shouting almost died away. The spectators were holding their breath. It was most horrible and most magnificent. A great shout arose from the old Narnians. Miraz was down, but not struck by Peter. His face downwards, having tripped on the tussock. Peter stepped back, waiting for him to rise. Oh, bother, 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 said Edmund to himself. Need he be as gentlemanly as all that? I suppose he must. Comes of being a knight and a high king. I suppose it is what Aslan would like. But the brute will be up in a minute, and then... But that brute never rose. The lords Glazelle and Caspian had their own plans ready. As soon as they saw their king down, they leapt into the lists, crying, oh boy, who's talking? Treachery, treachery! The Narnian traitor stabbed him in the back while he lay helpless. To arms, Telmar! Peter hardly understood what was happening. He saw two big men running towards him with drawn swords. And the third Telmarine leapt over the ropes on his left. To arms, Narnia! Treachery! Peter shouted. If all three had set upon him at once, he would never have spoken again. But Glazelle stopped to stab his own king dead where he lay. That's for your insult this morning, he whispered as a blade went home. Peter swung to face Caspian, slashed his legs from under him, and with the back cut of the same stroke, walloped off his head. Oh, hello. Edmund was now at his side, crying, Narnia! Narnia, the lion! The whole Telmarine army was rushing towards them. But now the giant was stamping forward, stooping low and swinging his club. The centaur charged. Centaurs. Twang, twang behind, and hiss, hiss overhead came the archery of dwarves. Trumpkin was fighting at his left. Full battle was joined. Oh, I'm going to leave it there as a nice little cliffhanger, I think. Yes. Tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, I shall finish the story. 5 pages. Marvellous. That was epic, wasn't it? Oh, very epic. Marvellous. Ooh. He writes battles well, does CS. It's got to be said. Right then, 276. We'll carry on tomorrow on the weekend. It'll be interesting to see how many viewers I get on the weekend. Right. Have a lovely evening, a lovely weekend, and be well and God bless you. Goodbye.